Hey guys, Flegg here, founder of Ethical Property Partners. So we find ourselves once again in pretty uncertain times. A lawyer friend of mine is going on holiday next week and they have decided to take their work laptop with them, which they've never done before, in case the airspace is closed, get this, and they can't fly back to the UK. And I thought to myself, wow, that's crazy, surely not. And then I looked into it and I thought, yeah, it's not that crazy, it's possible. And they'd rather not buy a new laptop and have to get it all set up whilst they're sat on their island on their extended holiday. And so we definitely find ourselves in very uncertain times. And what does that mean for us as property investors? Well, I want to give you a few examples of what we call black swan events in EPP. Now, black swan events were first coined by Taleb, really good book. I can't pronounce his first name, but Taleb is his surname, and he wrote a book on black swan events. And we covered this a few years ago on EPP and have talked about it ever since. The pandemic was a black swan event. No one could have foreseen it. The credit crunch was another one. No one could have said on this day this is going to happen. In fact, not many people were saying we're going to have a global credit crunch. Banks, countries were going to go under. Not many people would have predicted the global pandemic being illegal to leave your own house, illegal to go and meet with someone in the park and sit down and have a picnic. But these things have happened. Let me give you a few other examples. If you're a Russian entrepreneur at the moment, did you have it in your business plan that the UK, European, United States governments could come in and freeze your assets? They could sell them and hang on to that money. Was that in your business plan? I'm sure Roman Abramovich wasn't expecting for Chelsea to not be allowed to sell tickets, to not put his players on a plane to go to their away games. Unbelievable things that are happening at the moment. And you might think, oh yeah, but you know, they're billionaires. It wouldn't happen to me. Well, that's what the Cypriot people thought in 2013, start of 2013, February 2013, that's what they thought. They thought that their money was safe in their bank accounts. March 2013, the Cypriot government, told to do this by the European Union, took a levy. They called it a bail-in, and they took anywhere between 6.75% and 9.9% of all cash held in Cypriot banks. They just took it. They just put their hands in and took that money out of the bank accounts. 10% of your money, basically, and it depends how much money you had. But even if you had £100, they'd take their £6.75, or it'd be euros, 6.75 euros. Unbelievable. And that, for me, is a black swan event. You try losing 10% of your money. Ouch. And we've talked about other ones. We've talked about, you know, the 3% stamp duty just coming out of nowhere. Two friends of mine went offshore. They went and lived in Spain. Beautiful part of Spain, Marbella, for those of you that know it. They lived there for a few years. And then the Spanish government decided to retrospectively tax expatriates. So they'd said the tax rate is this, and they'd been out there 2, 3, 4 years, I forget how long. And then the Spanish government said, actually, for the last 2, 3, 4 years, we have been saying it's this, but actually we're going to change that and we're going to back tax you, even though we never asked for it before, and even though we said it was different, we said it was going to be a nice low tax rate. They actually then have changed it and said, actually, we want to load more tax off you, and because they're the government, you have to pay it. And on that, my friends came back. They were like, no, that isn't what the deal was. We're coming back to Blighty. And so, where does this leave us as property investors? Because things are going to change. We're talking now about the EPC's rating for properties going up. They're talking about increased regulation of landlords. If you look to Wales, there's a massive change at the moment in Wales in terms of how much notice you have to give tenants before they can move out if you just want them to move out. So there's always going to be a changing landscape. But for me, I think it's really important that we diversify our interests. And so, yes, we should diversify out of property as well. I'm not an expert in those areas, so I'm not going to do videos on that. But I think we should be looking at holding a significant amount of our wealth in cash, People vary from 5 to 10 to 20%. I think it depends on how active you are, it depends on how leveraged you are, etc. Some people talk about having money in stocks and shares, having money in gold. I think all of those have their place. And I think for someone to be 100% in one asset class is an unnecessary risk. You can even now in Singapore put money in gold and then borrow against that money. So you can put £100,000 into gold and have it held in a Singapore bank, and then you can borrow £80,000 back against that, I think under 5%, which gives you actually quite an interesting hedge against the price of gold, or an option on the price of gold, basically, because you still got the majority of the money. But I won't go into that in this video. What I want to talk to you about is how you can diversify your investments, how you can protect yourself against these black swan events. And the best way of doing that is to have a variety of different properties in a variety of different geographic locations, using a variety of different monetization strategies. You need to have different mortgages, you need to have different loan to values, you need to have different purchasing models, you need to have different income streams. And if you focus on that, you'll be absolutely fine. It doesn't matter if some legislation, I do predict this actually, if some legislation comes out that says that service accommodation is now far harder to do. Perhaps you need planning permission to do service accommodation for above 30 days a year. That would change the Airbnb market quite significantly. Perhaps some more legislation comes in for HMOs. There's quite a lot, but some more could come in. Perhaps there's something that comes in for single ASTs. Who knows what's in the future? But that's the point of this video. We don't know, and we mustn't pretend that we know. Because if we pretend that we can see the path ahead of us and know what's coming up, then we get complacent, we get greedy, we get too aggressive in our approach, we allow our cash reserves to drop too low, and that's where you have a problem. That's when you can come unstuck. That's where you bet the farm and rely on the market not changing. People at the moment going, oh, capital growth's amazing, I'm going to put more money into property because it's going to keep going up. No, who says it's going to keep going up? In fact, every drop in history has been preceded by a bubble. And so actually you should be thinking, and this is certainly my mindset at the moment, if we have seen this massive growth over quite a long period of time now, we should be expecting it to drop at some point. Now, no one can say when it's going to drop. No one can say, oh, it will drop on this day by this much. But we're in a cyclical market. We know that legislation is going to change. We know that taxes are going to change. And so my overriding principle to all of our partners at the moment, and to you guys out there, is to diversify. Get into property if you're not in property already. Build your portfolio if you haven't already built it. But don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't have them all in one type of property, in one town, with one type of tenant. Until next time, guys, happy investing.